He's gonna die. He's gonna fight me. He's a big He thinks he's awesome.
Hey everybody, this is the game I want to talk to you about today. It's called The Wizard's Path. Wizard's Path is a very fun and challenging game where each player is going to take on the role of an elemental wizard trying to create a power line or their wizard's path from suited cards of the 4 different elements. Now I say this game is kind of tarot-esque because of the fact that you are going to be using these cards that do reference and are take their theme and their background from, I guess, in a way, or origin, if you will, from a classic tarot deck. You're going to have, like the ace 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of each element, and also then like the court cards, king, queen, knight, and so forth of each element as well, and then some other cards that are called Magium cards that don't really belong to any certain suit. And then you're going to be using these cards and their powers and their abilities to try to build this powerful wizard's path or power line of your element and your allied elements, and you're trying to do that quicker, faster, and more efficient than your opponents. So let me show you how to play the Wizard's Path, and we'll come back here and I'll talk more about this game. Alright, cool. Alright, this is the Wizard's Path, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to play the game, but let me just touch on a few things that you see in front of you before we dive into that. Alright, so I've gone ahead and set up the game. There's these tarot cards that are placed in this pattern. Each of these tarot cards, you have one card placed face up on the top of them to begin the game. Each of the tarot cards has a special ability listed underneath it, but you can't use it until the card is taken. I'll explain all of that in the gameplay portion. This giant deck of cards, you will be handed a starting hand of those cards, depending on the number of players that you have. The goal of the game is to set up your Wizard's Path. Your Wizard's Path is getting an ace through 8, or 9, or 10, depending on the number of players. With 4 players, it's 8. 3 is 9. 2 is 10. So you want to set up a path. The path is ace 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you set that up, and you will trigger the end of the game, and then you'll total up the value of your path in comparison to the other players. Whoever has the best value of their path will win the game at that point. Now, you will pick a element. This is like the air element card here. It's kind of white and air elementy, I guess. And then you like air cards. Air cards are easy for you to snag and easy for you to use. Normally, to put them into your Wizard's Path, it's going to cost you 1 card to discard. So you can put 1 card down, and you get to put a card into your path. During the first phase of the game, once again, I'll get into the phases of the turns in just a quick moment, but I just want to point that out. You do have 2 elements that are allied with your elements. So for air, the allied elements are water and fire. So you could add like this fire 7 if you had it in your hand to the Wizard's Path, but that would cost you 2 cards to discard to use a fire card, unless there's something else that adjusts it, because this is one of those variable player powers and cards that break rules. I love games like this, so it's just keep that in mind. But that's the basic rule. If you have a rival card, this is like a rival Earth card. For whatever reason, if you ever draw a rival card to your element, you have to place it in the rivals section of your location there. And then it'll count against your Wizard Path power for that turn, and after that turn you get to discard it. But they are there for that complete turn, so it's kind of bad luck to get those. Alright, so the way the game is going to work, you have your starting hand, and you're going to have 3 different turns. You're going to have the Building Path phase, you're going to have the Wizard's Way phase, and then you're going to have the Meditation phase. And then you're going to start everything up. And the game will just continue until one person has triggered the end game, that I mentioned earlier. During the Build Path phase, you have a few actions that you can take. The first obvious one is building your path. You take a card from your hand, and you're going to place it in right above your player card there, and then you use the discard that we specified before. Either 1 if it is your element, or 2 if it is an element that you are allied with. another power that you can do is you can take one of these little crystals. These are kind of like your workers for worker placement, and you place them on a spot like so, and then you take that card and you put it in your hand. And so then you have that, and then theoretically you could then later on the turn, if you pay the discard prize, you could place it down. Also, if you've placed a crystal on a location, at that point, you can remove a crystal, and then you can take the action that is on the card that is below it. Now notice, you can't put a crystal on a spot if there's no card there. So like after, if I'd done that and I'd taken this action, somebody else, like Water couldn't say, I want to take that action, and they could place their card. The only time you can place a crystal on a spot is if a card is there. So that's kind of like one of those cool things where, it's not only are you like claiming the card, but you're kind of taking the spot. And that kind of leads me to one of the things I really like about this game that I will undoubtedly mention again, is that a lot of times you're not going to match up both the ability that's on the card with the card that is on top of the ability that you're going to like. So what I mean is like you're going to like, it's very rare that you're both going to like the card that's on the spot and the spot ability at the same time. But you are going to take cards for a spot that you really want to use the ability for, and you are going to take cards from spots that you don't really care about the ability as well. So, it's one of those like it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other kind of thing. And if you're lucky enough to have both of the situation work perfectly for you, then all the better. But for the most part, that's probably not going to coincide for you. So after you've everybody's done everything they want, people are going to pass. And just like any other game, when you pass, your turn's done. So like one person says pass, then everybody keeps going, then another person says pass, everybody keeps going until finally there's nobody left that can take any more actions. And after everybody's passed, you'll move on to the Wizard's Ways section. Before you begin Wizard's Ways, you'll return all crystals that haven't been returned yet to your cards that are out there, and you're also going to take all of the cards off the spots like so, and that haven't been taken. So you won't have any situations where cards that nobody wants will just lay out there stagnant and being waiting to be taken. You then, during the Wizard's Ways section, you will begin with several different actions that are going to be all about getting more cards down around your player's base, if you will. But also, this is the turn where you can start actually messing with people. Yes, this is a game where you can actually interact with other people and monkey with their plans. I love games that I can actually put my hand in somebody else's sandwich, so to speak. But regardless, first we need to go ahead and replace the cards that are on top here. And this is done, in my opinion, to kind of so people can kind of prep themselves for the next turn, and they can kind of have an idea of what cards are going to be out there and what their options are going to be and so forth, and so they can kind of plan for the next phase. So during the Wizard's Ways, there are several different actions you can do, but a lot of them have to do with that whole messing with the other players, and I'll touch on that last, but I want to touch on the other things that are important first. You can what's called summon a Magium, and what that means is that there are several cards that have these this Initiate that don't have a suit, and it says and they have special powers, and this is a Magium. And to summon a Magium, you reveal it to everybody at the table, and then you place it face down on this side of your placard. And because the reason you do, and you put a crystal on top of it, you got to remember, because that limits the number of actions you have. Now the reason you do that is because at the end of the Wizard's Ways, you'll be able to flip that card over. And then during future Wizard's Ways turns, you'll be able to invoke the power that card has. It's kind of like a spell. You can only ever have 4 Magium cards in that location, and as you use them, you do discard them. So you will use those up and replace them undoubtedly with other cards that are useful later. one thing I should mention is that each of these Magium cards, here's one, they have like a certain level or power to them. And you can't summon a Magium card that has a greater like a greater level or greater power that is greater than your existing path strength. So you'd have to have built a decent like wizard's path to invoke some of the card's powers, because the fact, it kind of shows that like your wizard has leveled up, so to speak, and then you're able to do it. So and I'll talk more about how you determine the power of your wizard's path in just a little bit. But as you can see, like, this is a 12 on it. So in other words, like, this is a fairly powerful spell. And, but, you'd have to have a path that has at least that much power to it for you to go ahead and place it into your Magium area. During the Wizard's Ways, you can also, this is when you're going to be able to go ahead and petition allied courts. Now, that may not make any sense to you, but not only are there Magium cards, but there are also cards like this King of Water that are a court card. They don't have a ace through 10 on them, and you can place these down during the build your path phase. You can place them up here, and they can be used as a path card. You can't use one that's of a rival element for you, but you can place them up there, and they are considered wild. They can be anything ace through 10, so it could be a 6, it could be a 4, it could be an ace, it could be a 10, whatever. But the thing is that they aren't worth any power for when you're determining the power of your wizard's path. So yes, you could use it to maybe start the end of the round, but unfortunately you might not have a lot of power to it, or you might not have a lot of like you might not have a winning wizard's path if you use a lot of these. But when you petition the court, you discard a number of cards equal to the influence level, and that's like a 3, that's, as you can see right down there. And then you can go ahead and either if it's in your hand or if it's in your path, you can then place it in your allied court. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, one, you get the extra power for having it in your allied court, but also you get to use its ability. So this King of Water says, while this card is in your allied court area, you gain the water abilities. So that's cool. Now you have to be saying, well, what's the water abilities? Well, each power, each element has its own special abilities. You can see the water has their special abilities, innate and discard, and air has special abilities like air has add +2 to initial hand size and so forth. And so you could add the extra powers of those things. Now, once again, you can't use like from your rival element. So like as an air wizard, I couldn't use the earth wizard's power, but I could get my allies if I can get the kings as well. So finally, there is, I shouldn't say finally, so a lot of these other powers now have a lot to do with this action, which is called issuing a path challenge. Now, what you're going to do is if you're going to basically challenge somebody, you hand them a crystal and saying, I am challenging your path. You're basically saying that the wizard's path you've created, I don't have one out here, but just if you created a wizard's path, you then say, my wizard's path power is greater than yours. Now, obviously, you can see their wizard's path. You can kind of figure out. The way you determine your path power is you gain 1 power for each card that matches your elements. So, like, air elements will give me 1 power. And for each allied one, you gain 2 power for those. Now, the reason why you get more power from the allied ones is because it costs more to place them down. It costs 2 cards to discard to place an allied card down. Whereas only 1 to place down the one that you have your affinity for. So it's kind of like it costs more, so it's worth more. So you place that down, you say you're challenging, and you hopefully, like I said, you're ahead of them. And then you start going through the process of, like, each person can take actions that can actually increase your strength. So beginning with the player with the weaker path strength, you can channel a Magium, which is if you have a Magium that is face up and has no token on it already, you can then channel the Magium and you can add its power, like right there, and add its power to your path strength. And so you would just go ahead and do that, and then you would add that to your total power, and hopefully that would push you up and over the other player. And so and then they'd have to react. Also, if you had the bad misfortune of having a card that was not of your favorite, a rival card, that minuses 1 from your power for each card that you have over there. And you can place a token on that to nullify that energy. And so you can go back and forth and taking these actions, and eventually one person, you're either going to tie or you're going to have one person lose. If you tie, nothing happens, obviously. But the winner of the challenge gets to gain some benefits, but even the person who loses gains something small. So the loser of the challenge can add a pip or a court card at the end of their path at no cost. They can just take a card and add it, and they just get it. And I think that's in there just basically so people will like say, well, even if I lose, I get something, and so they'll go through the process. But if the winner may choose one of the following words, they can move a card in your path to any position in your path. Or you can place an allied court card from your hand or path to your allied court carry for free, or you can swap a card in your hand for one that is in the focus scroll. So you can go ahead and and basically skip a lot of steps by doing that. And that is the Wizard's Ways section. So after that's all done, you return all of you go to the meditation phase. You return all crystals to your place. If you have any rival cards, you discard those. You go ahead and take, if these were upside down, you turn them over and place them correctly. You check and see if anybody qualifies for victory conditions, the Wizard's Path being Ace through 8, 9, or 10. If it is, then you're going to go ahead and determine who's got the best Wizard's Path by power, and they will win the game. If not, then each player can then discard any unwanted cards in their hand and draw back to their initial hand size. And whoever has the first player token may choose to assign it to another player or keep it if they so desire. And then you start up a next round. So that is the long and short of it. This game doesn't have a ton of rules to it. It was one of those things where, yeah, maybe you had to play one round before you caught on. But after that, the game flowed very quickly, very easily, and was very, very challenging because of the fact that I think it kind of spoke to... It has a mixture of like classic rules, but also a nice spin on those classic rules that actually change things up a great deal and make for a very refreshing, exciting experience. But let me talk more about that in my conclusion, which I will do right now. Oh, there you go. That is the Wizard's Path. I talked a little bit about the things that I liked about this game, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a couple seconds here. But I do want to say one thing. My gaming group has like its core, and then I have my Bizarro gaming group that has its core. And then I have like the randoms, and the randoms are the people that kind of come and go, and they play every once in a while, and then they kind of vanish for a while, and they come back in, and what have you. And one of the randoms, a very, very nice lady that I used to work with, is a practitioner of Wiccan, or she's Wiccan or whatever. I'm probably not doing it justice, so I apologize for that if you happen to be a practitioner or a follower of that spirituality. But she really dug the tarot aspect of this game, so much that we played it like 4 times in a row, which is really, really odd for her. So now, I just say that as, like, hey, there's this out there that people seem to like, or what have you. I dug the tarot imagery, and I recognized it to a certain degree. And I remember, because I had a buddy who had a tarot deck, and I remember we used to dig through it and, like, find, like, it's like, there's the death card, and stuff, stuff like that. But it's like I never really was a big follower into like fortune telling or anything like that. But if you are, I mean, it's just something I think that maybe you will dig the theme, and it didn't bother me in any way, and in actuality it enhanced the fun I had when I played the game with my friend. So cool. Anyway, regardless to any of that, I've already talked about the things that I really like about this. Is that I love the action placement and the card placement, because of the random card placement on the different action spots. As I said, you sometimes will end up in a situation where there'll be like an action you really need to take. You need to move like this 4 that's jammed between a 5 and a 6. You need to move it back before the 5. so you can, have it in the perfect spot. But the location on the board that'll give you that power makes you take a card that is like a rival card that's going to like deduct power from your wizard's path by doing so. But you have to kind of bite the bullet to take those actions, or maybe like you don't. You have to do like exactly which actions you have to do, but then like the perfect card comes out. You really need that 8 of water or whatever. It would just be perfect to add to your path, and so you need to take that action, and even though it isn't something you really want, and so it's just I enjoy that function of the game, because it's like it's so like rare that you'll just get like the perfect spot and the perfect card matching up, and so you kind of have to work out the puzzle in your head as far as what you're going to do in that particular turn to move forward and achieve the things that you want to do with the game. So I love that aspect of the game. I love the fact that I can mess with other people. I can, there's the process of attacking them and taking, and messing with their chain. There's the different variable player powers. I mean, it says, like, as I said, you use the court powers in your court section, your allied court. It says that, like, you don't have to use those powers of those cards, or like that's the advanced rule, but I would strongly suggest to do that. I mean, because there's just simply no reason not to. It's just like using the actual like element powers, like the different innate abilities and stuff like that. I love things like that. I love the idea that each person is its own kind of like special animal, so to speak, that has different powers and abilities. And whenever you add in rules that kind of break the rules and give you special access to things, I think that only makes the game more fun, just because it kind of switches things up and it doesn't keep everybody on this same little level pace. And so then you play to your strengths and try to hide your weaknesses and things like that. And so, I mean, just a combination of a really cool theme, really challenging gameplay, and just like a lot of fun, just really made Wizard's Path really stand out for me in like a big giant mass of card games that happen to be out there. That all by and large are pretty good games, but when you have a lot of the same thing out there, it's really, really nice when you stumble upon something that is this really, really awesome gem. So I invite you to go ahead and check out the Wizard's Path page on BGG, also their Kickstarter, see if it's something you want to play and add to your particular collection. If you have any questions about the game, please ask away, and I'll try to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.